Hi there, Dr. Gary here on the road. We sell dental practices nationwide. I was a dentist for 25 years, doing this now for 14 years. So we are dental practice brokers. Now, today's topic is, in the sale of a dental office, preventing a triple disaster. Wait till you hear this story. Okay. So, as you know, we have 10 employees. We're in 22 states, and we're doing this 363 days a year. The dental brokerage, we take off Christmas and Easter. Phone is answered from 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. East Coast time, so just call us. Even if you want to chat, let's try to put a deal together. Or you want a free appraisal, we can talk to you about that. Now, all the information you're about to hear is obviously entertainment. It is not legal advice. Our phone number is 201-663-0935, and our website is dentalpracticeguide.com or nationwidedentalpracticebrokers.com. Okay? If you're thinking about selling to the DSOs, please call us. We know who they are, what their financials are, who's having trouble, who writes terrible contracts, who's the best DSO for you. We're independent of them. I get the same commission from all of them. It doesn't matter. And often they pay my commission, so there's no commission to you. Secondly, you work with us, we're going to get your legal fees reimbursed on the DSO deals, the bigger DSO deals. Upon successful closing, it's going to be great. All right, so give us a call. Okay, what's our triple disaster coming here? I can see it coming. I just know it, and so you've got to head it off at the pass. We have a buyer doesn't want to use a dental attorney, using a no-name attorney. So yeah, the guy probably knows what he's doing. Agreed. Probably a good contract attorney. No clue when it comes to dental. Doesn't know work in progress, access to records, remake policy, restrictive covenants, access. It's just like they don't know what they're doing. Not only that, they're not a player, which means they've never worked with the dental bank before, so he's going to be fresh to the bank. Banker doesn't know this guy. So this is day one. Not a good situation. Two, I'm trying to get, obviously, the seller who wants to use a non-dental attorney. He doesn't know the other dental attorneys. So now you have blind leading the blind. All right? In the event the seller wants to use a non-dental attorney. So this guy doesn't know. I'm sure he's knowledgeable. I'm sure he's done a few dental deals. But the buyer always tells you the same thing. Oh, I did my previous offer with them. Everything is fine. Yeah, until there's something happens 20 years from now, and there's a clause that he forgot, like credits belong to seller, little things like that. Small phrases you don't even know the attorney's putting in there to protect you and your estate. And this guy doesn't know. I know he doesn't know because he's not a player in the game. If he was a player, he'd been tweaking his contract for the last 15, 20 years. Remember, one of my attorneys that I work with doesn't work for me. He's independent. He did 150 closings last year. Just last year. Don't you think that he has a pretty solid contract by now? It's tweaked. But you got this new guy on the block who knows nothing about dental. And the buyer says, oh, he's a good guy. What does that mean? You know what the frig he's talking about. So that's disaster number one. I'm trying to convince the buyer to use another attorney. That's going to be a disaster. So disaster one, we're trying to avoid that. Disaster number two, the buyer is not using a player bank. That is a bank that, is in our game. Not using them. And that's going to be an issue. And the issue is going to be that bank doesn't know what they're doing. I know who the bank is, and they are a nightmare. They actually had a huge deal once. 10 days before closing, it was like $2 million deal. 10 days before closing, this never happens. This bank pulls out. You're right, they pull out. 10 days before closing. I'll never work with them again. Now the buyer tells me I got approved by that bank. Disaster number two. Which means we may not be going to closing with this bank. Which means none of the attorneys want to work with the bank because they know they are labeled as disaster. All right? Actually, this bank should take all of their employees that work in dental and give them a free stamper and stamp it right on their forehead and say disaster, because that's where we're heading. I have to now convince the buyer to use a different bank. You have to prevent these things. Remember, a good broker, which we are, incredible, a good broker will set your foundation up. Foundation is dental attorney for the buyer, dental attorney for the seller, dental bank for the buyer. You got to have that. You've got to have a stable foundation. You just can't wing it because the buyer got approved from the bank. Forget it. It's going to be a nightmare number 2. So disaster number 2, we have to convince the buyer to use another bank, and I'm working on other banks right now. So she's all happy. The buyer's happy. He's happy. He, she, what does it matter? That they're approved by the bank. Okay. So we have to prevent that by instituting another bank, work on the emotions of the buyer to use another bank. So what is disaster number 3? Now disaster number 3 is this buyer who I sold to before wants to use the same attorney he used last time. That guy was Mr. Disaster double time over. He should get 2 stampers on his head. Disaster every day and disaster forever on his forehead. Because he was impossible to deal with. This guy had the nerve, if you remember that freaking guy. This is the attorney that told me he's keeping me out of the loop. Could you imagine that? Keeping me, Dr. Gary, out of the loop, and I'm on my game every day, and he's not feeding me the information. He's only talking to the other thing. He drove me freaking crazy, that guy. I mean, I'm just trying to put the deal together. All I want to do is go to closing, and this double disaster attorney, and believe me, most of the attorneys are fantastic. They're wonderful to work with. They watch your back. But this guy had a friggin' attitude because he thought I was too aggressive, and all I care about was the commission. I'm like, hey, I want my sellers to go to closing, my buyers to go to closing. That's the first priority, okay? Sure, I'd like to be compensated, but if I can't go to closing, what's it? So he says, no, that's why you're bugging me. He says, you bug me on the weekends. You call me too often. I said, you kidding me? If things are breaking on the weekend, of course I'm going to call you and email you. You can't wait. When something happens on Saturday morning that is big, like the seller's going to give a major concession, I got to call all the attorneys right away. Hey, we got the concession that's been tying us up. Okay, the attorneys work on the weekend. Monday morning, we hit the ground running. But no, not this friggin' attorney who I worked with last time who put stuff on the back burner, who is in no rush whatsoever and just blaming me that I'm just going for my commission. No, I'm just trying to put a deal together. So we have this attorney, double disaster on his forehead. I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to convince this seller that you cannot use that nightmare guy, but you have to be respectful. We know you like him. We know you worked with him before, even though he's a friggin' meatball, impossible to work with. Double disaster. And that's the triple. You have to prevent these things. You must have the foundation. You got to do whatever you can. If somebody tells you use the dental attorney, use the dental attorney. I'm doing this 14 years. Okay, I must have learned a little something after a while. All right, I was a dentist for 25. Get rid of that attorney. Mind you, the attorneys are great. The right attorneys are fantastic. The wrong attorneys, double disaster. And this attorney has a track record of screwing up a deal. So we're trying to prevent this. I'm doing whatever I can. It's an emotional play now. Let's see what happens. I'll keep you posted. We're headed towards the finish line. Actually, there's a 4th disaster on this deal. Both the buyer and the seller are hyper. They're hyper. They're not calm, cool, collected. Even though they're experienced, they're hyper. So I got to deal with emotional, I know what I got to deal with. I'm dealing with the emotional roller coaster. So not disaster number 3, this is going to be disaster number 4. Emotional roller coaster number 4. So I have to begin prepping the buyer and the seller to calm down. We're going to get through this. We're going to hit bumps in the road. This is not going to be smooth sailing. To alleviate bumps in the road, you got to listen to me. So we are trying, but this is how you prevent disasters from happening, by setting up your foundation early. All right, team, hit the subscribe button if you like what you hear. We got a ton of videos coming out. I think we got more than 10,000 views, which for a very, very small audience is pretty good. So we're excited about that. Okay. Plus, we're working on more and more, getting more of these YouTube videos out there. So we're doing quite a bit, and our marketing and advertising. We're really cranking up on that. So we're just trying to dominate. On your game, working with you every day. Give us a call. Have fun out there every day. And let's make it happen together. We should be getting a new list out in May of all the new practices. I'm picking up some nice ones in Ohio, Louisiana, Alabama. So let us know. We'll be there. Okay? Please give us a call. Nice chatting with you. See you on the next video. Coming up soon. Bye now.